All right, SWP Disciple is back. All right, just leaving that Walmart. Not sure if you can see the sign. Maybe when I take the turn. Just sold the driver's side light from my old 2007 Accord Coupe, if you remember that from some years ago. That had been sitting in my garage for, probably 4 years at this point. Didn't know that East Windsor had a Walmart, but I mean, it makes sense. Looks like it's like a major hub of their community here. About 16 miles, like I said, south of good old Springfield. So it was to create space in my garage as much as anything. I had it up for $55. I'd continually marked it down over the years. Certainly undersold it. Apparently somebody had suckered him before, and he bought one and discovered that it was broken after the fact, so he had to buy it again. He's also looking for a front, driver's side fender and front bumper, rear bumper. I don't know what the hell he's doing. It sounds like he's basically putting together an Accord, which that might be more, and I think he said it's a 2004, 2002, some even number in the early odds. But the lights are all the same. This was off of 2007. I didn't know that people were still doing that at this point. He looks like he's a little bit younger, Indian fellow. His friend seemed to object a little bit to me taking a photo, because of course, safety first. This is like a shanty town, late at night. He just got off from work at 9. It's just after 10 right now in Bloomfield. I'm not really sure where he is. That sounds like Amazon. We have a huge distribution facility there that actually my roommate, 2 roommates ago, before the roommate from hell, my mom would call her a roommate from hell, but she just didn't like her. She worked there at the distribution facility. It's a huge facility. It's like a mini city or something. And my guess is that's where he was working. So stereotypes true to form. He beat down the price. I didn't feel like having a knockdown, drag out negotiation. I was like, all right, $35, cool. He wanted to do, what did he say, 2 for $70, and then whatever. So I just did 35. The old saying, don't cut your nose off to spite your face. For some reason in my mind, 42 sounded better, but I'm not gonna not do the deal for $7. So to recoup the money, I like this gamesmanship part of things. I gotta find a comic book. I'm gonna add to it and either buy a comic book or maybe just buy a mutual fund or something and try to regrow the money. I kind of worry about the market now because it's very resilient, despite the fact that we're not officially in a recession. We haven't had negative GDP for two consecutive quarters. To start the year we did. We were down 0.3, and somehow we've been positive the last 2 quarters. We'll see a lot of people are, doing a soft boycott of Black Friday and Christmas and all that in terms of consumerism and buying stuff. We'll see how this turns out. Obviously there's a cost of living crisis, which if you believe the current administration, it's a hoax. And we're the hottest country in the world right now and all that. Man, rhetoric is a thing. This is definitely testing the limits of just kind of saying whatever, despite empirical evidence to the contrary, and getting people to believe it. Yeah, it does seem the tide of public opinion seems to be turning, but certainly at a slower rate than it would be if we were a Democrat in office. So yet again one of those built-in advantages of the elephant party. So it is what it is. But in any event, I'm going to try to make the money back in the market. This could be dicey because I feel like there's going to be a correction coming. I mean, there has to be, right? A lot of the growth is really just from the spreading of data centers and AI, but not in the the Main Street stuff that we need. Whether it's textiles and retail, things like that. Oil prices are down apparently relative to the end of last year. Of course, in the battle, as it were, there's going to be losses, for the other side, but there's also going to be wins. So I'm certain this is going to coast into 2026. Now, a lot of it, as you know, if you follow that sort of thing, is softening demand and OPEC increased supply. So that's what it is. It doesn't really have anything to do with the administration, but I'm sure he will take credit. And you know what? That's politics. So I would expect no less. Anyway, I have, as I said before, like a slate of big expenses and just things on the horizon. I actually have a development coming up, and it's really a matter of, do I want to go this way or do I want to stay on the shelf? So I'm sure you have a clue there. And now my studying for the LSAT begins in earnest. First we'll see if they let me take it again, because once you're past a certain threshold, you have to apply appeal to be able to take it again X amount of times within 5 years. I'm hopeful, and if not, my 154 should hold up in a lot of different other possibilities, but man, I've got a ways to go. So, but I did like a short test last night, and I did pretty well in the reading comprehension. So I feel decent, all things considered. Obviously, it's not the best situation, but baby steps, one foot in front of the other. So now here's the weekend. Again, here's another sieve on my savings. One of my work colleagues, she has a baby shower like after work tomorrow. So I gotta maybe check the baby registry tonight, figure out what I'm gonna get. I could just give her money, but knowing her, I know her very well actually. She's been working with us for like a couple years now. That money won't even see the baby, so I'd be well advised to actually buy something off the registry. But it's that time of year. I've got my requisite like 3-4 people to buy for Christmas. I've got like I said, a big dental bill coming up by January 22nd, and on and on and on. So this is why they say pay yourself, because if you just kind of mix all the money up, before you know it, you'll just blow it and you won't save anything. So that's why I save my, whatever it is, requisite 25, approaching 30%. But the problem is, I just got paid yesterday, and then the check is like poof, gone. Now I know the money's already been put aside to save, but then in terms of like that, that loose money that makes you feel good, walking around with like maybe a couple $100 in your pocket or whatever, like that just disappears like vapors. Anyway, in all things give thanks, as I like to say. And as you can see, I'm back on my way to Springfield. I might drive around downtown just a little bit. Got to jump on my nightly chores, if you will. And after the gym, I dropped off my gym clothes in there, washing in the washing machine right now. And I get home, light study. Actually, I'd be remiss. The news of the day of the sports world last night, LeBron broke his streak, his double-digit streak. Now, of course, the haters will say, well, what about 2011? What about 2014 against Indiana? 2011 against Dallas? Of course, it's a regular season streak, so you take the upper bound. Now, if you counted Michael Jordan, combined, he would be like just over 1,000, but regular season alone, LeBron by far has the record, like 1,297. I so wanted him to retire with double figures from here until eternity, but clearly he's not the same. He's dealing with sciatica and I guess some left foot arthritis, which ironically, so do I. I have the same ailments. Now, sciatica hasn't flared up in a couple years, but that's just because I don't play ball as much as I used to. I play like once a week, maybe twice at most. And as you know, I had my big toe joint operated on my left foot, my push foot, a couple Octobers ago. And there's the beginning of arthritis. At least that's what my foot doctor told me. It might be real arthritis by now. So I literally have the same thing that he'll be in and out of the lineup with the entire year. And it's like he's just kind of going down. Obviously, in a lot of ways, for him, he's been doing it for 23 years, so he doesn't. I'm sure he'll regret it when he retires, but he can't feel it now. He's just like, I've done all I can for the game. He's probably just thinking about making it to the end and possibly winning a ring this year, maybe next year if he comes back. But the way he's looking right now, it's looking like this is his last year. He might be the type to unceremoniously announce it after the season, because I think he does understand the moment, right? So he made the pass to Hashimura to win the game at the buzzer with the 3 last night. He's a better man than me. The strength of my character is that I'm a very honest guy, and I like to think a pretty noble guy. Like, I try to keep things on the up and up, and even sometimes to my detriment, where I know other people wouldn't do the same. Even just in the vein of fairness, I'll still I'll take the L. I gotta say, if I were LeBron, why does it smell like rotten eggs all of a sudden? Is that 5 Series in front of me, that old ass 5 Series blowing? Or I don't know. I think we're around Monsanto right now, so it might be Bonnie's Island with all that sewage and stuff blowing over here. But it smells like deviled eggs or rotten eggs or something like that. Oh, I also just recently crossed 110. Still a baby. 110K, that is, miles. He was in the perfect situation. So he up-faked. Scotty Barnes, I think, doubled over on Aaron Reeves. Sidebar, Lakers are getting blasted by my Celtics tonight, but there's no Doncic. He's in Slovenia, I think, for the birth of his child. And LeBron was a scratch because sciatica flare up, left foot arthritis. So as we thought, the Lakers were a sacrificial lamb tonight, and they're getting blasted. Which obviously it's like a gap year for my Celtics, but they're oddly playing really well, so well that people are thinking that Tatum may come back later in the season, because he's already, we're in December, the year's kind of flown in a way, even though it's been a long year in a lot of ways. He is at 8 months. So if he waited until just before the playoffs next year, it would be a year. And it is a year injury. Now, of course, famously with Durant, the reason why he's come back so well is because he took a full year and a half after his his Achilles. But Tatum is younger, considerably younger. All right, this guy is driving at the weirdest speed. I was gonna take that exit, but I'll go one more. The East is wide open. It looks like the Knicks kind of have a beeline. I know that the Pistons have the best record, but it feels like the Knicks are the best team in the East. They don't look like world beaters to me. We just beat them the other day, albeit it's a regular season game. The good old Hall of Fame there, Basketball Hall of Fame, Naismith Memorial. But the Celtics may be tempted to go for it. That would be a hell of a feather in Jaylen Brown and Tatum's cap, and Derek White, Pritchard, Anthony Simons, is it Peyton Pritchard? What was I going to say? Yeah, so the Lakers, they look really good. They're still going to be, I think, the number 2 seed, or maybe about percentage points behind Houston. Of course, OKC looks unbeatable, but maybe a little tweak here. DeAndre Ayton is making a world of difference in the middle. Even though he's not doing anything spectacular, but he's making a world of difference for the Lakers. But if LeBron can be 80-90% of last year's LeBron, this is the craziest thing. Last year, he very nearly made All-NBA first team. The only reason why he didn't make first team is because of he was injured coming out of the All-Star break, and he kind of slowed his pace. But he was dynamite for a month and a half last year. No, I think it was right after the All-Star break, and then right after that is where he took some games off, and then was markedly not the same. I think he actually had a season last year where he was on pace anyway to shoot 40% from 3, and then finishing 75% at the cup, which it's a party of one. I think he's done it twice, and he's the only person that's ever done it. We'll see what happens with Jokic this year. All right, what is going on here? But in any event, hopefully he picks it up. I mean, I still believe in him. He can still do like a 25-5 type season. He's going to get his assists. It looks like he's going to average about 8 assists this season. But if he can do like 25 and 8, I mean, right now he's far from it. He's like 14, 5 and 8. But it's only been 6 games. Because he's LeBron, it feels like the longest, most overexposed 6 games in forever. But in any event, like I was saying, they were tied at 120. If I were LeBron, to be honest with you, I would have up-faked. He had a shot, especially if he attacked left to the cup, and he would have had a nice shot, and then if he missed it, they go to overtime, and then he has 5 minutes to score one more bucket to get to 10 points. Again, you know, he's about winning. That's not a selfish move, but damn it, for a record like that, and of course, like, you know, you have the Jordan people who are like, oh, he has the real record. Well, LeBron's at, I think he finished at like, it was like close to 900 games. I know, like 800, in the upper 800s. It would have taken some doing. It would have taken like another season after this, but he could have come really close to having the record outright, which, you know, regular season and playoffs are different anyway. You know, it's not like they have like the all-time score. I mean, LeBron would have that anyway. He have like over 50,000 points, but they don't really, that's not really a thing. Sometimes when ESPN does their made-up records, they'll do that, you know, and then people say like, oh, just because it's LeBron, but all right then, so then we'll do regular season, but no one's going to come close to that, 1,297. Right now, I think KD has the most, and it's like a couple hundred games. And in terms of like 20-point games, which is a really impressive streak, SGA is about to pass like number 2, and he actually has a real shot at passing, I think, Wilt for like the all-time record. But those are weird things. You can tweak an ankle in the first quarter or just have like a really cold night, but at the same time the game is competitive, so you can't jack. And then because that's kind of what happened with LeBron. People look at it, oh, he's 4 for 17. He definitely jacked, but not really. I think he took 11 shots in the first half, and then the second half, in service of the game, he only took 6 shots. He could have taken more. I would have taken more. Damn it. But anyway, you know, it is what it is. Again, I think years from now, maybe even less than that, he'll regret that, because, you know, you don't get that back. I remember years ago when Vince Carter was still kind of like at the tail end of his prime. He was with, I think, the Nets, or maybe in his earlier part of his tenure with Orlando. So still good, but not like the old Vince. And Jeff Van Gundy, he said, you know, he has so much talent, you could see it. And it's like, why is he just out there kind of like Cadillacing? Because that was like his thing. Like, it never felt like he was expending like maximum effort. And he had all the talent in the world. I'm not saying he was going to be necessarily Jordan, but he could have come damn close. Like, he had more talent than Kobe, for instance, right? And he had the longevity and the health. So had he really applied himself, you know, who knows what he could have been. Now he's just kind of like, you know, the greatest like dunker ever, which is cool, but it's like, it's scratching the surface of what he could have been. And I know some cats are just like Joe Cool. You know, I think he ended with like lifetime average of like 16 points. I mean, for someone who's more talented than Vince Carter, you know, in his prime, you know, it's crazy. And Jeff Van Gundy said, like, you know, you don't want to look back and like, you know, realize that you like left something on the table. I remember it distinctly. It's funny the things I remember. I remember when Jordan passed Kareem or matched him at like 787 for like the double-digit streak. It was a thing back then. Now people are like, of course, kids are young now. They don't remember that. They're like, oh, this wasn't a thing when Jordan passed, you know. And then one guy, I remember arguing with one guy in the comments. He's like, and I'm from Chicago. And I'm like, and I distinctly remember that time, and it definitely was a thing. If you can look up articles of the period, or, you know, old like ESPN episodes or whatever, it was definitely a thing. But, you know, I'm eminently fascinated by, you know, hate, and consequently, you know, love or like in the other direction. The things that people do in the mental gymnastics and the pretzels they'll twist themselves into just to kind of like form a narrative depending on which way they lean has always fascinated me. It's almost like with facts, unless you can just utterly knock it out, and then sometimes people resent you because they feel like they're being strong-armed and you're forcing them to believe what you believe. I've had that happen in an argument, have somebody say that to me. But just because you kind of like bent them to your will, if you will. But I'm like, the facts are the facts. I'm just trying to get this thing right, I don't mind, necessarily being wrong, and I'll admit if I'm wrong, but people are strange like that. Hopefully it's a situation where he's more appreciated, after the fact, but it definitely seemed like this is the back nine, sad to say. He's basically my favorite player ever. You can say a tie with Paul Pierce and Larry Bird. Of course, I'm a Celtics homer, so who else would it be? Especially given my age at 46, that's like right in my wheelhouse. But certainly my favorite player right now, and it's tough to watch, man. But I know, I recognize those movements, and I know the ginger movements and all that sort of thing, because I've had to go through it, in my basketball career that never was. So I can tell he's feeling it, and last year he was fantastic. Again, he made All-NBA second team. I think he might have had the most votes on the second team, and very nearly made the first team. And it was only because of that little blip of about 4 weeks or so when he was injured, but he played through it and actually dropped his average below that streak of 25 points for whatever it was, 21 straight years. These are big time streaks. The All-NBA, the 25 points per game. It looks like the All-NBA is going to fall by the wayside. These are things that we'll never see again, and people just kind of take them for granted because some people are in a hurry to see the man retire. There were people saying that last year, and I'm like, you're out of your mind. He's one of the 10 best players. But life comes at you fast. This year, he's looking like one of the kind of like the bottom players. But it's 6 games in, so a lot can happen. Not last year, but the season before, he started off not quite this bad, but close, and then ended up going on a tear really for the rest of the season. And the only reason why he made the third team, that was in 2023-24, is because they couldn't, the Lakers weren't that great. They made the playoffs and stuff, but it would just be a bad look having both he and AD on the second team. And then I think it came down between he and I want to say KD made that that last second team, but it really should have been LeBron had a better season, but because they didn't do enough winning, they put him on the third team. But man, what a career. So how did I start this? Selling a driver's side headlight on a car that I haven't had in 4 or 5 years, that I wish I still had in a lot of ways. I guess more proof sometimes to just listen to yourself, because I had people definitely telling me oh yeah, sell that and sell the TL and go ape shit and go get get a $40,000-$50,000 car, which I could have, but I was I'm going to law school, or at least, well, no, I wasn't thinking of it then, but certainly when I sold the TL, I was I'm going to law school, I can only afford so much car, and yada yada yada. Maybe that's evidence that sometimes you should go YOLO. You can make the argument both ways. Sometimes you should YOLO, and then sometimes you should just stand pat. I do like my 228, my BMW, and of course love my RAV4. But man, I'm due for something more modern. But expenses coming up. Oh, Urban Gear is closing. The retail apocalypse continues. That's small business too, right? So allegedly the lifeblood of the United States. But anyway, stay with me. God bless.